The first time I noticed him, he was standing motionless across the street from our home, hands tucked in the pockets of a weathered coat. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't doing anything really, just watching. People passed him like he wasn't even there, but he didn't flinch, didn't shift. That was 3 weeks before the divorce papers appeared on my desk. No warning, no dramatic argument, just a cold, sterile notice. My wife claimed irreconcilable differences. It felt too neat, too rehearsed. I didn't argue. I signed where she pointed, watched her walk out the door with a smile that quivered at the edges like it was hiding something. The next day, the man wasn't on the sidewalk anymore. He was in my driveway. She told the court I was emotionally unavailable, passionless, too absorbed in my work. They nodded solemnly. A combat veteran with lingering trauma? Fragile. Predictable. Easy to cast aside. I didn't fight the labels. I just remembered the man's boots. Standard military issue. The kind you don't buy at a thrift store. His walk wasn't casual or drunken, but deliberate, controlled, like someone who'd walked too many miles with a rifle and silence for company. He wasn't some drifter. He was trained. Trained to vanish, to observe, to follow. I didn't chase him. I let him shadow her instead. Later, I combed through our financial records and came across a storage unit she'd rented under her name. 2 months before she filed. Paid in cash. When I opened it, I found 3 plastic containers. One held delicate wine glasses. The second had framed pictures from our life together, my face carved out of every one. The third held something else entirely. Receipts, a burner phone, motel bills, forged documents, and a cabin key registered under an alias. The same name the man in my driveway used. I came home that evening. She was on the phone laughing. Her voice dropped to a hush the moment I entered the room. I said nothing. Cooked dinner. She didn't touch her plate. That night, I left my laptop open, displaying a decoy folder labeled Disability Appeal, Confidential. Inside were fabricated scans linking me to illegal offshore accounts, doctored mental health evaluations, suspicious browser history. Everything crafted to raise red flags. Just enough to tempt. And it worked. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the folder was opened. Still, I didn't confront her. 3 days later, her attorney filed an emergency motion seeking sole custody. Claimed I was unstable, manipulative, financially reckless. They even submitted the files from my laptop as evidence. They must have assumed I'd never see the court exhibit list. But I did. I watched her across the courtroom, tears dabbing at her eyes like she'd rehearsed the gesture. The act was flawless. I didn't blink. I didn't speak. The judge gave me a look, mildly skeptical, but ultimately leaning in her favor. I wasn't worried. I had time. Outside the courthouse, I saw him again. This time cleaned up, no beard, suit pressed, shoes shined. He passed by her slowly, brushing her shoulder in the subtlest gesture. Her eyes flicked in recognition. Not surprise. She never noticed me watching. That night, I filed for a full evidentiary hearing. I submitted footage, records, data. Everything. GPS logs from the burner phone. Contents from the storage unit. But the most important piece was an encrypted drive, sealed, timed, and ready. The court gave me 3 days to finalize it. That's all I needed. In the meantime, the cracks began to show. Friends stopped calling. One mutual acquaintance rang me privately, asked if it was true she'd been seeing someone long before she filed. I didn't answer. I never offered explanations. I simply handed the encrypted drive to the court clerk on the 3rd day. Inside it, hidden surveillance footage from the cabin, hours of video, conversations in code, bank account discussions, travel arrangements, and her, calling him by a name that didn't exist, whispering into his chest. If he ever finds out, it doesn't matter. No one believes men like that anymore. The man was ex-intelligence, dishonorably discharged. She met him through a volunteer program, turned him into her puppet, used his skills, gave him purpose. When the next court session came, she wore white. Innocent. Untouched. Her lawyer came armed with a new folder of accusations. When I walked in, I handed the bailiff a single sheet of paper. He gave it to the judge. It was a sworn statement, signed by the man she used to call homeless. In it he detailed everything. How she seduced him. Promised marriage. Promised half of what she'd win. Laid out a plan to paint me as unstable, ruin me financially, and walk away with custody and control. The judge read it silently. Then, without lifting his voice, he said, "Lock the doors. No one leaves." Her lawyer's hands trembled. My wife, my ex-wife, looked like a ghost wearing her own skin. Our daughter sat beside her, confused, her gaze sharp, searching. She didn't recognize the woman next to her anymore. There was no shouting, no courtroom drama, just a deep, still silence. The kind you hear before something shatters. But nothing shattered. It just ended. She lost custody. Lost the house. Her accounts were frozen pending a criminal inquiry. She lost the version of the story she thought she could control. I walked out without looking back. I don't live there anymore. I signed the property over to my daughter through a trust. The garden's calm now. The lights work. The shadows stay outside where they belong. Sometimes at night, I hear the wind brush against the glass and think of the silence that filled that courtroom. How stillness, when used with patience, can be sharper than fury, more devastating than any fire. I didn't destroy her. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences of who she really was.